am I the asshole for not telling my parents that the event they were missing was my wedding? Please bear with me, everyone, as this story is somewhat lengthy. I am a 27 years old woman, and I have a younger brother, Mike, who is 21 years old. He is the epitome of a man-child and a mama's boy, constantly complaining and expecting others to cater to him. Overall, he is quite unpleasant. Since his birth, my parents have doted on him excessively. He does not have special needs or a traumatic birth history. He was simply born. However, my parents completely neglected me. My mother, who is 50 years old, transformed from a loving parent into one of those stereotypical boy moms often mocked online. My father, also 50 years old, still showed me some love and support, but he has always been too timid to confront my mother and advocate for me even once. The only person who defended me was my grandfather, who is 76 years old. He always called out my parents' unfair behavior and never liked my brother. I remind him of his late wife, my grandmother, and we share a very special bond. Unfortunately, he lives on the other side of the country, so I rarely see him. Mike knows our mother favors him and loves to rub it in my face. Because of this, and his behavior, we have always been at odds. He is spoiled, bratty, and an awful person. I cannot recall how many times I got in trouble for things I did better than him or for things he falsely blamed me for. His only talent lies in his football skills, which earned him a scholarship to a prestigious out-of-state college. My parents did not contribute a penny to my education, claiming my college fund was used to cover expenses after a fire. Later on, I discovered that that money was actually used to buy Mike a car and a house. At a public university, I met Lucas. He was the first person I truly connected with there. I also met new friends who were now my closest companions, and with their support and Lucas's, who was my best friend for years before we started dating, I managed to move out of my parents' house. Now, both Lucas and I are well known in our fields and earn very good salaries. Now, on to the main issue. Lucas proposed to me 1 year ago. We are very private people, so we did not share the news on social media. When I told my parents, they brushed it off with a "that is nice" response, and I'm starting to think they barely listened. We decided on a simple yet elegant ceremony and reception with our friends and relatives. Lucas convinced me to invite my parents and brother, but they never responded to the invitation. Whenever I visited and tried to discuss my wedding without explicitly mentioning it was a wedding, my mother would interrupt to talk about my brother's accomplishments and adventures. Frustrated, I once interrupted her to say I was planning an important event with a fixed date. She replied that they could not attend because my brother had a football game that same day, and they wanted to be there for him. This favoritism was not surprising. They missed my ballets, shows, and both my high school and university graduations for events related to Mike. At that point, I decided to be petty. I told my parents it was not a problem if they missed the event, deliberately omitting that it was my wedding, and did not press further. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, I got married. It was perfect. My family, Lucas's family, and our friends were all there, and we had a wonderful time. My grandfather was thrilled to walk me down the aisle, and everything was just perfect. My relatives asked several times why my parents weren't there. I honestly explained that they had to attend my brother's game and couldn't come. They gave me a few looks, and my grandfather was visibly angry for a while, but nothing else unusual happened. After the reception, Lucas and I went on our honeymoon, and were phone-free for the entire trip. Upon returning, we were greeted by a storm of chaos. When I turned on my phone, I couldn't even unlock it before a flood of notifications appeared, mostly from my mother and brother. Mike hurled all sorts of nasty insults at me because apparently one of my paternal aunts posted wedding photos on Facebook with a caption that clearly criticized my parents, especially my mother, for missing the wedding. The post went viral in their community, and they faced public shaming for their treatment of me. Additionally, my grandfather personally visited my parents and berated my father, his son, to the point of tears. This seemed to be my father's breaking point, as he was devastated for missing his only daughter's wedding and facing his father's disapproval. He finally stood up to my mother, threatening divorce unless she made amends with me. I believe this is why my mother has been bombarding my phone with messages, initially insulting and threatening, then pitiful, full of begging and self-pity. Now I'm at home with my husband, deciding how to handle the situation. Most of my relatives, even the ones I didn't invite to the wedding, reached out to apologize for what I endured, claiming they were unaware of the situation at home. I can't blame them, as they all live with my grandfather on the other side of the country or in another state. But my maternal aunts and friends are belittling me for not informing her about the wedding, saying she's inconsolable at the thought of missing it. Personally, I think she's just trying to save face, but I'm not sure. The latest messages from my parents seem genuinely saddened and hurt for missing my wedding. My family is now divided into three groups: the majority supporting me, my maternal aunts shaming me for hurting my mother's feelings, and my maternal grandparents insisting I forgive her in light of her atonement. My best friends advise me to ignore them. So Reddit, am I the asshole? Too long, did not read? My parents have always favored my younger brother over me, prioritizing his events over mine. I got engaged and informed everyone, but they dismissed it. I sent a wedding invitation to my parents and followed up, but they did not respond. When I mentioned the date, they said my brother had a game they had to attend. I did not clarify that it was my wedding and said it was fine if they missed it. I had my wedding, and now my parents are facing backlash from relatives and their community after my aunt posted a critical comment about my mother. Edit. Thank you so much for the feedback and love. It is overwhelming. I will address the popular questions here. First, I did inform my parents about my wedding. I sent traditional paper invitations to all guests and was notified that all invitations reached their recipients. I did not receive a response from my parents or Mike, a few distant relatives, or some people on Lucas's side. I followed up with everyone who did not reply via message, and those who responded said they could not attend. I texted my parents and brother, but they did not reply and left me on red. Given their history and my busy planning schedule, I did not insist further. It is not worth the effort. Second, I did not repeat the wedding date because they had already mentioned my brother's game. Additionally, whenever I tried to emphasize my event to get a response, they told me it was not important and to stop being bothersome, as some things were more important than me. At this point, I believe it's fair not to persist. It's not worth the effort. Third, I did not keep my wedding a secret. I avoided explicitly telling my parents it was my wedding to see if they would show any interest, but unsurprisingly, they didn't. I openly discussed my wedding with my aunts and uncles. My mother was present a few times when I talked about venues or dress shops with my aunt, the one who posted on Facebook, but she was either on the phone or chatting with others, never paying attention. When I mentioned it during reunions, she smiled, said, "That is great, dear," and changed the subject. My father and Mike remained silent. Fourth, I maintained contact with them because in the past, whenever I tried to go no contact after my high school, bachelor's, and master's graduations, which they did not attend due to reasons involving my brother, I faced harassment. My parents, brother, maternal aunts and grandparents shamed me for turning my back on family. The turning point now is that I have Lucas by my side, unlike during my previous attempts at going no contact, which gives me more confidence. Before, I lacked this confidence. My paternal relatives live across the country and were unaware of my parents' treatment. I tried exposing them once at 14 years old. My aunts, uncles, and grandfather reprimanded them. They pretended to be sorry, and then at home I faced severe punishment and gaslighting for lying, which honestly still haunts me. Only my grandfather knew, but he was threatened with being cut off from me if he intervened. My parents and I do not live in the same city. I live an hour's drive from their small town, and they don't know my new address because my brother once tried to break into my apartment to steal cash, and my mother supported him, claiming siblings share possessions. Now that I've moved, I will ensure they don't learn my new address. Sixth, my parents did not buy my brother a car and house before he started high school. They bought him a car for his 16th birthday and a house near his college during his freshman year. They did not use my college fund immediately. They lied about it and used it later for my brother, keeping it stored in the meantime. Reddit verdict, not the asshole. Top comments. Comment. Not the asshole. They were invited and gave a reason for not attending. You accepted their non-participation. Response. Exactly. They received an invitation. When I get invitations, I hang them on the refrigerator as a reminder and respond courteously. The parents deserve the consequences. The original poster needs to tell the sisters the truth. The mother is spinning it to seem like she was shunned by her daughter. Response to response. My husband's father and former stepmother disliked me because I am not white. They made numerous racist comments, repeatedly tried to convince my husband to leave me, both before and after our marriage, and even attempted to turn his siblings against me. My husband received random texts, emails, and calls from his father claiming I was cheating because all people of my race are unfaithful. Someone, likely his father, though I cannot prove it, as the venue reported the caller's area code matched his, tried to cancel our wedding venue and caterer. They left our wedding invitation on their kitchen table for weeks, talking about how it would be a shame if something happened to prevent the wedding. My sister-in-law, who lived with them, reminded them of the RSVP deadline. The invitation disappeared, and they claimed to extended family that I did not invite them. I sent 2 more invitations with signature confirmation. Both were returned with "homeowners refused" written in his father's handwriting. I kept those. Eventually, we had our wedding and they complained on social media about being excluded, specifically blaming me. I included photos of their refused invitations in our wedding album on Facebook and tagged everyone in their photos. It has been nearly 15 years and I have not heard another word about it. Comment. Not the asshole. I would be incredibly petty and go no contact with your parents and your mother's family. See how they like being ignored. However you handle it, congratulations to you and Lucas. May you always find happiness together. Comment. Not the asshole. Actions have consequences. Mike is the golden child to an unhealthy degree. You have built your life based on their actions, your mother controlling everything and your father enabling her, and now they are upset because they have been publicly shamed. Rightfully so. I am pleased your father might be waking up. Please give a hug or high five to your grandfather from me, depending on his preference, for being such a star. Live your best life with people who value you. Also, congratulations to you and your husband. You did nothing wrong. Comment. You handled that like a professional. Well done. This internet stranger is proud of you. Continue to handle it professionally. Cut off the aunts who are shaming you for hurting your mother's feelings. She did that to you your entire life. Cut off the maternal grandparents who believe your mother has atoned for her behavior because she certainly has not. Stick with the majority who support you, family and friends who were there for your wedding and continue to support you now. The rest can go elsewhere. Comment. Your mother is not sorry she missed the wedding. She is sorry everyone found out she was a terrible, abusive mother. Ignore her. She made her choices countless times during your childhood, and now she can face the consequences. You could choose to forgive your father, but remember, he stood by and watched the abuse, neglect, and financial misconduct with your college fund. He watched it all and did nothing. He is just as culpable. Ignore anyone who dares to say it's your fault your parents missed the wedding they were invited to because they couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the invitation. You can't fix stupidity or narcissism. Live your best life and let them deal with their own mess. Update. Thank you all for your interest in my story and for wishing my husband and me a happy life. I am incredibly grateful for your reassuring messages, love, and feedback. The response has been overwhelming and beyond my expectations. I love you all so much. To those who think my story is fake, I am glad your family life is better than mine, making my reality seem like fiction. However, I would appreciate it if you stopped harassing me in direct messages, claiming I'm fabricating this for attention. If I missed details in the original post, it's because I was overwhelmed and crying due to my family's harassment. You are not obligated to read my story or believe it, but a little decency would be nice. Before the update, a few clarifications. First, yes, the invitation clearly stated it was a wedding. No excuses. Second, my maternal family did not attend the wedding. I apologize for not clarifying this in the original post. Most were busy, and others gave excuses to send a gift but not attend. Don't ask why they didn't discuss my wedding with my mother. I can't read their minds. Third, my mother's atonement is her texting an apology. Now for the update. Things have been chaotic this past week. I stepped away from Reddit for a few days to collect my thoughts. I had a lengthy conversation with Lucas about how to proceed.
He has been my rock, and I couldn't love him more. My parents were always a taboo topic, but he gave me a necessary reality check. We concluded that maintaining contact and not going no contact is unhealthy. I realized I kept in touch because deep down I craved their approval, even now. It's pathetic, I know, but it's like an addiction. They can be loving, funny, caring, and warm until they're not. The small affection they offer makes you crave more, and you destroy yourself seeking their approval. That's enough. I promised myself things will change. I've decided to start therapy and go no contact with everyone who made an issue of this situation permanently. After reflecting, I messaged my father to say that if he wanted to talk, I would meet him, my mother, and Mike in a neutral location the next day. He immediately agreed, and we met at a park. My father's sisters and brother joined us for damage control. My father looked distraught and as though he had been crying. My mother looked similar, but I think it was more out of anger and embarrassment. My brother seemed annoyed. I asked them why they treated me this way, and they had no answers. My father kept crying and apologizing without explaining, and my uncle reprimanded him. My mother seemed to consider the question for the first time, but ultimately said she simply disliked me. My brother admitted he enjoyed the attention and making me miserable as a sport. I had to stop Lucas from confronting him physically.
Surprisingly, my parents were upset and began reprimanding Mike. He threw a tantrum and cried insincerely, which I found somewhat satisfying. However, my mother claimed everything was resolved, calling it a misunderstanding, and insisted I clear their names. That infuriated me. I interrupted, saying they were not forgiven, and Mike's actions did not erase their years of neglect. I pointed out that it was obvious I was planning a wedding, and they should have asked. My mother's response? She said she heard me mention a wedding, but thought I was delusional and seeking attention with exaggerated scenarios, convinced Lucas would never marry me. I was livid. Another revelation: there was no football game. My parents exploited our lack of football knowledge and my avoidance of the topic due to Mike's past mockery to fabricate an excuse to skip my event. They actually went to Disneyland because Mike wanted to go. They used the football story to cover for his tantrum-driven trip, a tactic they had used multiple times. At the time of the original post, I could not verify the game because Mike's social media is private and Lucas and I are blocked. I foolishly trusted my parents' word. Overwhelmed by this deceit, I snapped. I told my father he was a weak man, unable to stand up for his children without his wife's approval. I called my brother a pathetic excuse for a man, destined to remain a useless leech. To my mother, I said she was the worst narcissist, too irrelevant to even judge, and beyond redemption. Harsh, yes. My mother stood to scream at me mid-rant, but I was too angry. I shouted for her to sit down and listen for once. She was furious. I do not recall much after that, just that I kept talking, letting all my anger and hurt pour out. The park fell silent. I told my parents and Mike I was disowning them and that they should think twice before contacting me again. I left with Lucas, Anna, and Francis, leaving my parents and brother with my aunts and uncle. On the way home, the reality hit me, and I had a panic attack. Lucas was driving, so Anna helped me until we stopped in a parking lot to calm down. I am incredibly grateful for their support. Once home, I collapsed into bed and slept. I wanted to follow your advice and post this on Facebook, but due to my career, I could not expose myself publicly. Instead, I compiled a folder of my mother's insulting messages and comments and sent it to the leader of her church, a tight-knit, judgmental community. As expected, the scandal spread rapidly, reaching beyond the church to their small town, with significant consequences for my parents. I received more messages from my maternal family belittling me for upsetting their sister or daughter. I no longer cared, so I told them they are no longer part of my life and can say whatever they want. I will not care. I warned that they should be grateful I did not send their nasty texts to their employers and spouses. I blocked them all, including my grandparents, on everything. My father sent a lengthy message apologizing for not standing up to my mother, admitting I was right, and expressing regret for missing so much of my life because of her. He said he is divorcing her regardless of my decision and wants a relationship to make up for lost time. I replied that I currently have no desire to see or forgive him. He responded that he will try to win me back and loves me. I said I find that hard to believe and blocked him. His attempt to escape blame by throwing my mother under the bus is pathetic. At least she owned her hatred. He only blames others for his choices. I do not want such people in my life. My mother and brother are also blocked.
Mike sent more taunting messages, which I ignored before blocking him. My mother threw a pity party over her community shunning her and her marriage collapsing, and I replied, "Good riddance," before blocking her. My grandfather is staying with us for a while to support me. He has read some of your comments and is quietly flattered. A few days have passed and things are calm. Lucas is spoiling me, and I am starting therapy soon. This may not be the dramatic, vengeful update you expected, but this is my reality. I will update if anything changes. Thank you for the love and support. I am logging out for now. Goodbye. Too long, did not read. I decided to start therapy. I confronted my parents and brother about their behavior and disowned them. I sent my mother's nasty messages to her church leader, and now she and my father are shunned by their community. Final comment. It is astonishing that your parents heard your brother admit to destroying the invitation and called it a misunderstanding. That is some top-tier cognitive dissonance. You are well rid of them. Live your best life and never let them back in.
What do you think about this situation? Who do you think is a jerk, and who did the right thing? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the Sneaky Pigeon channel to get more cool and interesting stories. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.